Hey guys, welcome to today's video and welcome on into my beauty stash. Today I am sharing with you guys the unfortunate top 10 palettes that landed in my stash in 2022. These were the worst of the worst, and I'm happy to say that I tried way more good palettes than I did bad palettes this year. So that just means that brands are paying attention. They're working on their formulas, they're working on their packaging, and they're giving us some amazing palettes. It makes for some good competition when you start to think about it. But I narrowed this down to 10 palettes only. The way I did my best eyeshadow palettes of 2022, that video is already live on my channel. Today we're gonna do the worst palettes of 2022, according to me, according to Steff. And in case it is your first time here on my channel, I want to welcome all of you. Hello, my name is Steff, and this is what I love to do. I love trying out new makeup. You're always going to see primarily new makeup reviews. That is the main content here on my channel. I do multiple looks with eyeshadow palettes. I did film this look already. It is using the Glamlite and Strawberry Shortcake palette. I do makeup ranking videos like what we're doing today, and we just talk about makeup here. We have a great time while talking about the makeup. If that sounds great to you and this sounds like somewhere you want to be and something you want to see on pretty much a daily basis, do me a favor, click on the subscribe button and hit the bell next to it. That way you'll be notified every time I do drop a new video. And if you're a fan of makeup ranking videos, or you just want to see what made my worst list for 2022, give this video a thumbs up before you go. As usual, I will have everything that I'm wearing, probably not so much the palettes that I'm sharing with you, but I'll have some stuff linked in the description box, and some of those things might be affiliate links, so if you do end up shopping through them, I thank you so much for supporting me and my channel. Let's dive on into today's video. If you guys want to see what topped my list for the worst eyeshadow palettes in 2022, keep on watching. Coming in at number 10 is a palette I think some of you are going to be surprised to see here in the bottom category. But if you remember back to my video when I initially tried this palette, I didn't have a great experience with it, and I continued to not have a great experience with it. And I'm talking about Anastasia Beverly Hills. This is the Nouveau palette. Now, I like the packaging on it. I like the green, and I like that it's this type of packaging that's not going to get dirty. It's not like that velvet packaging we were used to seeing from the brand. The color story I think is really pretty. I think it's a nice neutral color story. You know, there's some green in here. I like that little pop of lilac, but to me this palette just didn't perform the way I was expecting it to perform. It was just mediocre at best, and this was not a cheap palette to begin with. I want to say this palette was pushing 50 bucks. For me, this palette just, I didn't get inspired with it when I got it home and started playing with it. I think I liked it better online than I do in person. And for me, the shadows, they just didn't perform the way I was expecting them to perform. I guess I'm partial to the Norvina palettes. I've really come to love and appreciate and enjoy that formula, and it just wasn't impressing me, and that's why it finds itself in the number 10 spot. So coming in at number 9, we have the Pat McGrath and Bridgerton eyeshadow palette. You know, I wanted to like it. I liked a lot of other things that were released in this collection. This was the dud for me though, and I have a feeling this is probably making a lot of people's worst list of 2022. For me, you know, the price tag doesn't justify what's inside. We get these shades all the time from Pat McGrath. I love Pat McGrath as a brand. I think she has some amazing products. She's an incredible makeup artist, but we needed something else. We needed something a lot more in this palette. I don't feel like this palette lived up to the hype. I don't feel like it lived up to, you know, the expectations. I think, you know, aside from the packaging being really pretty, it's just kind of lackluster once you get it home and start playing with it. You know, these are the same pink and burgundy tones that we get a lot in Pat McGrath palettes. I think the highlight of this palette, or what people were most looking forward to with this palette, was this shade right here. But at the end of the day, you know, we have this really pretty multi-chrome, duochrome, I forget which one it is. We have this, you know, in our other smaller indie brand palettes, to where, you know, it just kind of makes the entire palette a little bit boring. I don't know, this palette just didn't live up to the hype in my opinion, and that's why it's finding itself in the number 9 spot. Coming in at number 8 is Love Notes from Beauty Bay. This so far has been the only Beauty Bay palette that doesn't perform well for me. And unfortunately, it's a beautiful color story. I really like it, but the matte shades they just didn't perform for me. And I tried doing, you know, going from deep to light, and then I also did light to deep, and you know, it just, what can I say? You know, not everything can work for everybody. I know some of you love this palette. It was probably some of y'all's favorite palette of 2022, but unfortunately for me, it just wasn't there. I put this lower on the list because I do like the shimmers. I think they did a good job with the shimmer formula. Unfortunately, it's the mattes for me that didn't perform well, and I think, you know, some of the shades, they could have been deepened up just a little bit to provide a little bit more versatility. But, you know, pretty color story just didn't work out. Coming in at number 7 is a pair of eyeshadow palettes that was released over in Europe, and I was able to get them because they sold them on Beauty Bay, and I'm talking about the Mystic Zodiac palettes from BH Cosmetics. I was looking forward to these palettes because this was a few months after BH Cosmetics announced their bankruptcy, so I was really pulling for the brand. I was hoping, you know, picking these up, they were going to be some amazing palettes. Yeah, my hopes were quickly shattered once I got these home. I want to say these dropped shortly after the new year. This is a warm tone palette. This is the Sun palette. You know, it's just subpar. It's that subpar formula, lackluster shimmers, mediocre matte shades. The Moon palette, this one is going to be more of the cool tone color story. You know, it's been a long time that I've used these palettes. I want to say probably February was the last time I used these palettes, and I think this is the one that I enjoyed using the most, but yeah, it's not by much. But these Mystic Zodiac palettes from BH Cosmetics, yeah, they were pretty disappointing duds from the brand. Coming in at number 6 are Maybelline Color Block Shadows. These were awkward eyeshadow palettes. There's a trio in here. You can't pull them apart, like they're all together. So you have a light shade, another light shade, and one dark shade. And I think there's only one matte and 2 shimmers in this particular block. No, I think this is a matte. So 2 mattes, one of them is a bone, and then 1 shimmer shadow. This one over here, I think this one broke already. One of the shadows popped out. Yeah, this one popped out already. This one I think is 2 shimmers and 1 matte. No, 2 mattes and 1 shimmer as well. These were $10 a piece. $10 a piece, and they were rather boring. You know, 3 shadows for 10 bucks. I think, you know, Maybelline was trying to get on the trend of like these little block style shadows that we kind of see from some brands over at Sephora, but this was not the way to do it. What's inside isn't really that great, and for 10 bucks, yeah, no, total pass on these. Coming in at number 5 is the Too Faced Too Femme palette. This dropped, I think it was before Valentine's Day of this year. I love the packaging. I think the packaging is beautiful with the butterflies. And you know, the color story had a lot of potential. It's a pretty color story. It's just the shadows didn't perform that great. And I was really looking forward to this shadow, and it was, no, not really that good. The shimmers either. And then we kind of just got too much redundancy in this palette. They released another palette that I just reviewed. It's the Pinker Times Ahead palette, which is, you know, same type of packaging, everything. I want to say that palette is $38, and then this one was like $42, something like that. But this palette is already on sale. You probably find it already at TJ Maxx or whatever for at least half price, if not more. The quality, like the Pinker Times Ahead palette and this one, they're just mediocre. I think that Too Faced saves their good quality for their fall palettes, like the Pumpkin Spice Second Slice palette. You know, that was a good quality palette and different formula versus this palette here. I don't think this palette is worth picking up unless you like, you know, lighter looks. You don't want a lot of pigmentation from your shadows. Definitely get this at half price. But yeah, in my opinion, this is definitely not one that is worth owning. Coming in at number 4 is a palette I know a lot of you guys were disappointed with, and I am disappointed with it too. And I'm talking about the ColourPop Getting Fresh palette. This is one of their mega size palettes. I really wanted to love this palette because there are some beautiful green shadows in here. Unfortunately, there's just too many light shades. There's too many of the same light shades, and the quality of these shadows is not the good ColourPop quality. I was really looking forward to this shadow right here, and it was a big disappointment. They just don't transfer that great on the lid. I think they swatch better on my finger than how they actually translate to the lid. I was just really disappointed with this palette and the overall performance of it. I mean, some of these shades could have been switched out for other shades. I don't know. I don't understand what ColourPop was thinking when they released this palette. We've definitely seen and have better in our stash from the brand. Getting fresh is getting out of here. Coming in at number 3, we have the e.l.f. and Dunkin' Bite Size palettes. Now, I think you had to purchase these as a trio. I got the whole collection, but I don't think they were sold individually. You had to buy them all together. You know, I like the bite-sized palettes from e.l.f. I think, you know, they're pretty solid for being what they are, little $4 or $5 palettes. I mean, those palettes, they do pretty good. These, however, some of the shades in here, they barely showed up. I can just imagine what these shades would look like on somebody with a deeper skin tone. I mean, they probably would be non-existent. If they barely showed up on me, I don't know. I don't know. I think e.l.f., especially this one, I think e.l.f. definitely kind of dropped the ball as far as quality goes with these little bite-sized palettes. Yes, I know they're drugstore, they're affordable, but just because they're affordable doesn't mean, you know, they don't have to be good. The other bite-sized palettes are good. These should be, you know, on par with that, and they're not, you know. The yellow shades, like in this one and in this one over here, I was so looking forward to them. Like, this is a really pretty color story, but you know, it's just, it wasn't that great. For me, I still use the tumbler that came in that collection. I use that all the time. But these little bite-sized palettes, these I'm definitely decluttering after this video. Coming in at number 2 is a new brand for 2022, and I'm talking about Rock and Roll Beauty. This is their Def Leppard palette. Now, Rock and Roll Beauty, they do collabs with different artists, both living and deceased. I think their very first collab was with, was it Jimi Hendrix? And then Def Leppard was second. I know they just did one with Ozzy Osbourne not too long ago, but I got the Def Leppard one. The packaging, no, the packaging, this has been so difficult to store. I think, you know, it's a triangle, it's cool, it's different, but at the end of the day, how does this go? Like this. At the end of the day, just, you know, storing it, it just sticks out amongst a sea of square and rectangular palettes to where it's just off-putting. While I think this is a nice color story, unfortunately, the shadows just didn't perform that great. They lacked in pigmentation. They just blended out all right. You definitely needed to build these up. It's just boring. Even the shimmer shades that are in here, I mean, from here it doesn't even look like this palette has shimmer shades, but they're there, and they're really along the lines of more traditional shimmer shadows. They're not gonna pack much of a punch. I mean, if you want like this sparkly, you know, goodness I have going on my eyes, this is Glamlite. You're not gonna get this from this Rock and Roll Beauty brand. Now, I've heard mixed things about this brand as far as who owns it. Now, some of you first said it was Makeup Revolution that owned this, and then some of you said it was Ulta Beauty that owns this, and then some of you said no, it's a brand all on their own. At this point, I have no idea, but I can totally see this being a Makeup Revolution or Ulta Beauty brand because the quality of the shadows performs like some of the other palettes they have, and for that reason, I'm going to be decluttering this, and I'm likely not going to be trying much more from Rock and Roll Beauty. Now, coming in at number 1, I am so sad that this brand is coming in at number 1 because this could have been my number 1 brand in 2021. I don't remember, but I'm talking about BH Cosmetics. These were supposed to be their comeback. These were supposed to be the palettes that told everybody BH Cosmetics, we're back, we're here, we're still the same great brand, we still have our same great formula, and these are the total opposite. These little mini travel series palettes, little quads, this one is broken, so I need to be careful. This is the Iceland palette. these were very disappointing. And this one was okay. This Iceland palette was okay. A lot of you received Iceland Broken the way I did. Malibu was atrocious. Terrible. Malibu and Miami were just kind of like spin-offs from the Lost in Los Angeles palette. These two didn't perform great at all. Mykonos was all right. Mykonos was, you know, one of the better of the four, but even still, this was very disappointing. Oh, I have another one over here, Egypt. Egypt was just a basic palette. I want to say these palettes were like $8 or $10. And these palettes were released after Makeup Revolution acquired BH Cosmetics. They said it was the same formula. I don't feel like it's the same formula. I know a lot of you tried these as well. You don't think it's the same formula either. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate because BH Cosmetics was a great brand. They were going places until upper level management just made some mistakes, and then they had to file bankruptcy, and now they're owned by Makeup Revolution, which is also, from what I hear, in trouble. So I am so disappointed that this brand, BH Cosmetics, found itself on the worst of the worst list for 2022 in my stash. This is a brand that I loved, used for years, even before I had my YouTube channel, and I'm just really disappointed. I will be decluttering these after today's video. Alright guys, so that wraps up today's video, sharing with you guys my worst palettes for 2022. This hurt because some of my favorite brands made this list, especially BH Cosmetics. They made it twice. Oh, that hurts. That hurts a lot. Let me know what some of your duds were for 2022 eyeshadow palette wise. Did some of your worst palettes make my worst palettes list as well? Sound off in the comments down below. I want to thank you guys so much for watching another one of my videos. You all have a great day or night wherever it is you all are at. Stay hydrated guys. Drink that water. I'll see y'all very soon. Bye.